Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am RVB Shard for SP Airsoft with another gun review. This time round, it is a guilty pleasure of mine, something I've always wanted, and it's again another first for SP Airsoft. It is, of course, the Dan Wesson 6-inch combat grey revolver. It's a CO2 powered gun, so let's get to the review as we always do with a structural breakdown, plastic versus metal components. So here we go. The entire gun, apart from the grip here, is metal. Pretty simple and straightforward. The top rail is, of course, additional. It is something that comes in the box that you can attach. I did because I wanted mine to look a bit different, so I added that. Get front, rear sights, entire barrel assembly, everything else metal. Like I said, the only part that isn't is the grip. So that's the structural breakdown out of the way. Very simple, very straightforward. Let's get to the pros and cons of this gun. Now, let's go into the pros. As always, weight of the gun, superb. It feels very heavy. It feels like a revolver. Anybody who's a fan of revolvers in general, anybody who's, say, played Rainbow Six Vegas, likes the Raging Bull, or has a big fan of The Walking Dead, or any of these sort of things, this is a perfect gun, especially if you're into airsoft. Now, there is several variants of this available. They are made by ASG, and they're not made by Dan Wesson. Some people have got confused and said, oh, who's Dan Wesson? Why do they make it? It's just the style of gun is a trademark of Dan Wesson. The gun itself is made by ASG. This is the 6mm version, which you can see on the gun. It says there, caliber. 6mm ball bearings. That is the airsoft version. There is another version available. Some people have got confused on airsoft forums. I have seen this where people have said, "Oh, it's an 8mm." 8mm version, not really airsoft, especially because most of the ball bearings they fire are metal. So, want to stick with a 6mm version if you ever want to use it on site. But let's continue with the pros. Pros, it's very realistic. I mean, you can't get any better than, having a spinnable chamber, having the gun, and actually having each of the shells individually loaded with a beeb. Now, I don't store my guns with ammunition in them or the magazines in them. I've loaded these up just for you guys to see, because those are them without beebs, with beebs. There's something quite satisfying just about loading this gun up, just because you have to put each individual shell in, even put the two that are done, and then in. Of course, open, safe is that way. Gun cannot be fired or cocked when in safe mode. There's nothing else really pro about this gun I can say. It basically, just look at it. It is exactly what you want from a revolver. You want a solid gun that has a lot of oomph to it, and this definitely does. But now we're going to have to move on to the cons here. Oops, fell over. We're going to have to move on to the cons. Cons of which being, this is a CO2 powered gun. So, you can use it in winter, slight pro. Con though, most sites won't allow you to use a CO2 Dan Wesson for the simple fact this is one of the most ridiculously powered or high powered pistols you can get. Now, the standard shells that come with these have been chronoed somewhere in the region of past 500 FPS. Mine, when I tested it on site at Nomad, which is my local site, tested, actually broke the chrono. It wouldn't register the beeps. So those are not usable. Now, there's two ways you can use this gun on site if you wish. You can get it adjusted by the retailer you purchase it from. There's a modification to the CO2 valve that can be made in order to lower the FPS of the gun to site limits. However, I did not do this because I didn't want my gun being gimped. You can, however, do what I did, which is purchase the powered down shells There are specific shells that have a airflow restrictor inside the shell, therefore reducing the velocity from 500 FPS to around 300 FPS, meaning they're entirely safe and usable. Of course, this limits the gun's performance, which is why this is all in the con section. Don't get me wrong, I love this gun to bits and I will not sell it because I love it. But it has a con to it. Now, this being CO2, the power that the gun originally comes with is what gives it its oomph, which gives it its fear factor, if you like. However, when you restrict the airflow, what you also do is restrict the performance. Because this gun, another con I'm just going to head into, which blends with this one, is there is no hop-up in this gun. There is no hop-up whatsoever. Basically, CO2 to beep, out of barrel. No hop-up in the middle of that. So, it does limit the range quite a bit, and if you reduce the CO2 power, you reduce the active range of this gun. So this is literally a last stand weapon if you are surrounded and they are getting close. Yes. Trying to be sneaky with a knife and doing that whole freaking COD combat knife shit, not gonna work. You're gonna get shot in the face. So. But that being said, that's pretty much the only con I can come up with, is the lack of range. Lack of hop-up. I'll just show you how this is loaded. As you can see, it's powered by CO2 bulbs. They're 12 gram, you can get them frigging anyway, they're dirt cheap. They're about 500. Well, you can get, what, a pack of 5 for under a tenner. You know, pretty easy. And bulbs will last you a good long time. The other slight con I'm going to mention, this is just my gun, I'm not sure if it's everyone, but it's just mine. The grip is sometimes a little loose. You know, this section here. It can occasionally come loose when I don't want it to. Normally, when you're holding the gun, that's not a problem, because of course you're holding it by the... and shooting it, so it's not really a big issue. But if you're carrying it in a holster, that can occasionally come loose, and that's kind of irritating. So what I tend to do is just put a little bit of black electrical tape around the grip. Keeps it in place, and yeah. But I will tell you, the CO2 canisters last for ages. The one that's in this right now, I've had in there for about 6 months, give or take. Not an issue. Have used it on site. Have yet to get a kill with it, which has been one of my major goals, is to get a kill with this. It's just I haven't had the chance to use it. So, but for any revolver enthusiasts out there, this is a cracking little gun. It ranges for about £100, give or take. You can get them off of Land Warrior, Airsoft World has them, and there's a few other retailers that do them. They come in different colours. You can get the chrome, silver, the I think there's a black one, and there's also this one, which is the grey. They also come in a range of barrel lengths. You can get a stubby 2, a 4, a 6, and even the Monster 8, which is even bigger than this. So, if you can imagine that. A couple of them come with different accessories, like the 4 is shorter, so it's about there the barrel length comes to, and there's actually an under barrel rail instead of an over barrel rail. So, but power down shells are a necessity unless you get your retailer to snip the CO2 valve in here to basically neuter the gun, so you can use whatever shells you like in it. But yeah, that's it. Give it a rating out of 10, I would say 9. Basically for my own personal preference. I'm not saying this gun is a 9, it's going to beat everything, Tokyo Maru can suck my balls, that sort of thing. It's not the case. This is personal. It's a revolver. It's as close to the real thing as you can get. It's a glorious little gun to play with. It does have an issue with not having a hop-up, and the obviously having to restrict the airflow to make it safe to be used in airsoft sites in the UK. That's an issue, but not enough for me to take the shine off this gun, because there is nothing more enjoyable than whipping this out on site. And if you find another person who's got another one of these revolvers or one of the similar Dan Wessons, you can have a lot of fun just having like a freaking quick draw competition and stuff like that. They're good fun. So that's it for another airsoft review from SP Airsoft. So stick with us, wait for more reviews, And yeah, this has been the Dan Wesson.